Hello and welcome to Perthshire Online TV. I'm Vivian Corrigan.
And I'm Barry Freestone.
Well, you're not Gavin anyway.
No, well, I think I'm far more handsome and debonair and man about town, so I've wrested him from the chair this week. So I'm here today. I'm here.
Good. So what have we got on the show this week, Barry?
Well, on the show this week, we're going to be having a little bit of a look at what happened at the Chinese New Year celebrations last year. We've also got a fantastic local author who has written a wonderful book called Sucking Berries.
Very good. What else?
Do you know anything about that?
No.
And also we've got a great talk from one of our local ministers, and that will be Elinor Muir. I think she's going to be talking about marriage.
Very good.
Plus, the whole show is going to be dotted with loads of other things as well. Now, we'd like to thank you so much for watching Perthshire Online TV. The details of how to contact us are on the screen now. Do keep your stories coming in, do keep your ideas coming in, and do keep your inspiration and influence coming in, because without you, we wouldn't have Perthshire Online TV, would we?
We would not. We certainly would not. And also remember our Waistline Online Challenge as well.
Oh, yeah, how's that going, by the way?
Well, weigh-in's next week.
Doesn't look any slimmer to me. The last time I saw him, I thought he was putting it on, to be honest.
I'll tell him you said so.
He should have a nice Adonis body like mine. Do you think I've got any chance of getting to this fitness routine?
I think we'll maybe get you on there as well.
You think so? Okay, you have me running around the North Inch.
Or on your bike.
Or on my bike. I don't think I'm going to be around the North Inch or on my bike, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, I think we've rattled on enough with this. You're going to have a really wonderful show this week. Do make sure that you do write to us, because we love to hear from you. And to quote Gavin, as they say, it's on with the show.
Well, last week we had two great international celebrations to celebrate. We had Chinese New Year and we had Burns Night to celebrate. Well, the Perthshire Online team zipped down to the Salutation Hotel in Perth last Monday night, where we saw the local Chinese community celebrate the Chinese New Year. And indeed, it was a great festive party, great turnout. We had a dragon dance, we had a choir, we had traditional Chinese boat dance. It was great. There was a great turnout, and what a buzzing evening it was.
From Perth and Kinross Council, and to wish you all a very happy New Year.
And it was a very busy time at the Salutation Hotel last week. On Saturday night, the Sally, as it's known, also played host to the Perth Burns Club Burns Night celebration as well. It had a great turnout again, and it was a busy night for the hotel. It's refreshing that our national bard is actually still celebrated both locally, globally, nationally, and the Perth Burns Club received a lot of well wishes and best wishes from a number of the other Burns clubs, both nationally and internationally as well.
Deputation too from Kinross, near and close neighbours at Kinross Delibed area. Well, I'm keeping my warmest welcome for my supporters who came along the supporters bus from the Burns Club of Abernethy tonight. Well, your pin would help to mend a mild milling time of need. And through your pores, the dews distill like amberwood. His knife say rustic labour dicht, and cuts you up within his licht, trenching your gushing entrails brecht like on a ditch. And then haggis.
So that was Perth Burns Club in action, and what a night it was. Well, the evening did have some real high points, and we in the studio thought this was absolutely hilarious.
Joke, which was sent to me by a friend on an email yesterday. There was an Arab prince who had to have an operation, and for this operation he had to have a certain type of blood which was very rare, and it had to be stored until the operation. So the blood could only come from one person. They found it, he was a Scot, and they contacted this Scot, and he said yes, he was willing to give the blood, and so it was stored, ready for the operation, which then took place. Afterwards, the Arab prince was so grateful, he sent him a BMW car, some diamonds, and a whole host of US dollars. The Scot was truly amazed. About 3 days later, there had to be some more surgery. And the Scot was asked again if he would donate blood. He said, only 2 please, he said. So the operation took place after the transfusion. And afterwards, the Scot received a box of chocolates and a thank you. A bit taken aback, he rang up the Saudi prince and said, I thought you would be as generous as last time. Ah, no, laddie, he said. I now have Scottish blood in me.
Now, as we know, there's a massive housing shortage throughout the UK and here in Scotland as well. But in Perthshire, they are actually trying to do something about it, and they're about 3/4 way through a programme for new homes. And I've got Peter Barrett here in the studio who's going to tell us a little bit more about it. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you.
Now, listen, you've just handed over 10 new keys as well to in Perth. Whereabouts was that?
We've just handed over the 10 new council build flats in Scone,
Okay.
in Tramway Court in Scone.
Okay, Tramway Court. Has that got any connotations to where
It's the site of the former tram terminus in Scone, so the name of the development kind of reflects its heritage.
Okay, so Perth has got a programme, a development of 120 houses.
Yep.
So where have you already opened these houses?
Well, we've developed houses across the whole of Perth and Kinross, from Pitlochry down to Perth. And in Meth and also in Scone, Aelith, and we're looking to build houses in Blairgowrie as well. So,
and is it building houses from new, or are you redoing it?
no, these are particularly building houses as new development, new council houses. The first new council houses we built for about 22 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
And the houses that you're building, are they fully compliant with all the kind of regulations and all kind of not health and safety, the kind of
we're trying to build houses which are future-proof. They're built to what's called the housing with varying needs standards. Out of the Scone development of 10 houses, we've also built 2 houses which are DDA compliant, and we mean that we will be able to address the specific housing needs of people with medical needs for ground floor and level access.
And what's quite good that you do, you're not keeping it all in Perth as well. You are spreading it out throughout Perthshire.
Exactly. I mean, we have acute housing shortage for affordable rented housing all across Perth and Kinross. Building new council houses is one of the things that we're doing to try and address that need. But we're also doing a variety of other things to try and help people into housing.
What's the other areas that you've got? Because you're 3/4 of the way through. Which is the other areas that you're going to be next opening houses?
The Scone houses were bringing us up to 80 out of a programme of 120. We've got a further 12 houses to build in Pitlochry Lochary, 17 in Blairgowrie, and we've got some completions to do in Alyth as well.
Yes, and as we know, I mean, the housing list is huge. I mean, 120 houses on that development, but there's over 5,000 people waiting for housing.
Yeah.
Now, everybody out there must be thinking, oh, I'm never going to get somewhere. But there's other opportunities, there's other ways of doing this. Can you just run us through some of the different ways?
Absolutely. I mean, we acknowledge that, you know, the Council House New Build programme is not going to address all the housing need in the area. As you say, with 5,000 people on the waiting list, they would have to wait, you know, 10 years or more for a council house. We're trying to do a number of things to help people access private sector housing. We've got a specific group of council staff who will assist people into private accommodation, whether that's with issues such as putting together their deposit on a privately rented houses. We have a scheme called the Rent Bond Guarantee Scheme, which helps people who can't afford to put down a month's rent in advance to pay that back over a period of time without actually having to make the outlay of a deposit to the landlord.
Okay, and can people find out about all these extra ways of doing it through the housing
through the council? The Housing Advice Centre in Perth City Centre, just up the road from the library, is the place to go.
Okay, well listen, there's a few answers to you, so if you're a little bit desperate and you kind of think, I need to move on, I have Peter's personal number. You can ring him at home and get... That scared you to death, didn't it?
It sounds good, yes.
No, but listen, good luck, and don't forget there are options out there, so thank you, Peter, for coming along and filling us in on them.
Thank you.
And on our news roundup this week, delighted that there are some new businesses opening up in the Perth town centre. Paperchase, the well-known stationer Paperchase, opened up in the High Street only recently, and that's their 4th standalone unit that they've opened up in Scotland. The Fussy Cow opened up in George Street in Perth just the other week, and it has an exciting range of bed linens, throws and cushions. And congratulations to Audrey and Harry, who've opened up Belvoir Lettings in Bridge Lane Close, which is just opposite the concert hall, and they're currently looking for property owners who may need their services. That's Belvoir Lettings. And congratulations to Rowan Consultancy, which is a Perth-based business. They're one of 3 organisations in the north of Scotland who've achieved a world-class training accreditation issued by the Institute of Leadership and Management. So well done to Rowan Consultancy. And also congratulations to the team at Creative Orange, the design agency. Delighted to announce that they've achieved recommended agency register status for the 2nd year running. That's the 2nd year of being in RAR, which is fantastic news for them. So well done to Les Johnson and the team at Creative Orange. And on one of our news items the other week, we mentioned the new affordable housing initiative initiated by Perth and Kinross Council. And delighted that there's some news coming forward on that as well, that they're looking to announce the 2nd phase of this, which is 39 new affordable houses being built around Perthshire to a total of approximately 4.7 million pounds, which is an approximate unit price of 121,000. So that's good on the housing front as well. If we look at what's on in Perth, well, on the 7th of February, we've got the Perth Chamber of Commerce networking breakfast at the New County Hotel. Also on the 7th of February, we have the Perth UHI Centre for Enterprise Newbiz 2012 conference at Perth Concert Hall. That's always a very popular event, and that's a free event to go to. On the 18th of February in the evening, there's the BNI Fair City chapter charity comedy evening, which is held at the Lovett Hotel and hosted by our local comedian Bruce Fumey. On the 25th of February, we also have the Perth and Kinross Council Taster Session. Now, that Taster Session is for people who are looking to gain a housing qualification and work towards gaining a Chartered Institute of Housing certificate. So it's a no-obligation Taster Session on the 25th of February, held at the Salutation Hotel. And the next day, on the 26th of February, we have a spring fashion show at the Royal George Hotel, and the fashions are by Innovations of Perth, and that's organised by the Rotary Club of Perth Canoe and the Perth Soroptimists. And a little bit further in advance, on the 12th of May, remember to have the 12th of May in your diary. I am, as I'm on the Waistline Online Challenge, I'm working towards the 12th of May, the Pink Ribbon Walk at Scone Palace, which is for breast cancer care. And that's actually got two walks, a 10-mile walk and a 20-mile walk. So on the 12th of May, put it in the diary, you've got plenty of time to get yourself prepared. But on a finishing note, we're always looking for your news and your events, so please contact us at info@PerthshireOnline.co.uk or via Twitter or Facebook.
I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Alex Yellowlees, our resident psychiatrist and medical director of the Priory Hospital in Glasgow. So welcome, Alex, again to the show.
Thank
it's
you.
Lovely to have you. Now, we're discussing this well-known psychiatric problem of romance and Valentine's Day. So tell us first of all a bit about the history.
Well, it does have an interesting history because it was named after St. Valentine, who was one of the early Christian martyrs. And one of the popes actually started the whole thing off by celebrating the day and naming the day. But nowadays, of course, it's less of a religious celebration than it was, and some people don't celebrate it at all for religious reasons, like yourself,
Like me,
Vivian.
yeah.
So it's moved away from its just religious place in history into the Middle Ages, when it became romanticised by Chaucer, the poet and writer. And nowadays, of course, it's perhaps become certainly not a religious thing, hardly at all, and not too much of a romantic thing, but very, very commercialised.
That's right.
So it's been on a journey of development over the centuries. Nonetheless, there's still romance to be had in it, and I think more than anything, there's a lot of potential fun to be had in it. But there again, some people don't want to celebrate it for various reasons, and that's fine.
Why do people feel this huge urge, though, that they have to run out and, you know, buy the flowers and make a big deal of it for this one day?
Well, I don't think everybody does feel that big urge. I think some people think they want to do it and it's fun and romantic, and others think, well, I better do it because my partner's going to do it, I better not forget, and some people just don't bother at all. I think it's a shame, I think personally, if people don't do something, because I think in every relationship one needs to grasp every opportunity that life brings along to celebrate that relationship and to reinforce it, and to take the opportunity to say to one's partner that you love them and you care for them, and thank you for being together and for what we have. It's an opportunity to just put the spotlight on the relationship, even in a small way, and say thanks, I love you. And I think that's nice,
well,
personally.
I personally prefer the element of surprise, but anyway. So how do people celebrate it? How do they go about this?
Well, I think every couple or every individual has to find the way forward for them. Some won't bother at all, as I said. Some will just buy a card. Others might take it further and buy a gift, decide to go out for dinner or a meal, or celebrate it in one way or another. I think it's nice if a couple decides together how they're going to do that, so that nobody's disappointed and has high expectations which are then dashed, and that they both feel comfortable with the whole idea.
And do you think it's more of a women's thing? Because a lot of men, I mean, let's be honest, they forget, don't they?
They can do. They absolutely can do. And I think that's a shame because, as I said, I think it's a wonderful God-given opportunity almost to actually say thank you and I love you. And why miss such an opportunity? We need to grasp these in our relationships. Because if you think about it, every relationship becomes stronger through creating a bank of joint memories, trips together, things you've done together, places you've gone together, experiences you've had together. And Valentine's just gives us a little opportunity to do that, an excuse to do it, almost. And I think that's got to be grasped.
Okay, well, I'll not be the devil's advocate because I think there's 364 other days you could do it, but anyway.
Absolutely.
Leading on to the first date then, say you were going to have a first date at this time. Tips for that?
Oh, it's a scary thing, isn't it, a first date? And a lot of guys feel very anxious about it if it's the guy who's invited the girl, and we're assuming that's the case, but not always these days. I think the secret there, if you know, for guys, if this is the first date, is just to keep it simple. Avoid something that's going to be too intense and
do you think that's the danger? They make it too complicated?
Yeah, I think they feel they've got to spend a lot of money sometimes, or take her to a fancy restaurant to impress her. And I don't think those things necessarily do impress a girl.
Sometimes it could be the first time if it's a younger person, they've maybe been to a fancy restaurant, and then there's all the pressures of that as well,
and
isn't
the
there?
menu and the choosing and what do you wear and all these kind of things.
How much?
I think one has to pitch it at a level that both of you are going to feel comfortable about, so that you can have fun together. So it could be just exchanging some gifts, it could be going to the movies, it could be going for a burger, it could be doing anything
You're a high
that the two
roller.
of you want to enjoy.
Yeah, oh, very
Yeah,
good. So it's
absolutely.
just, it's about enjoying it, keeping it simple.
Keeping it light.
Yeah.
And again, if you get into the situation where you actually have a lot of potential talking time together, that can be difficult for folks. So if you're in that situation, I think the secret there for guys is actually not to talk about yourself all the time, but to ask the girl questions about herself, what she's interested in, to show that you're interested in her as a person. And most people will respond to that well, and communication will flow from there.
Very good. Well, that's very interesting, very helpful, and we certainly look forward to asking Dr. Alex our next problem that we have.
Now, as we know, we're actually surrounded by fantastic creative people, whether it's an artist, a craft person, a musician, or even a composer. And we've got a fantastic lyricist and composer with us in the studio who's going to take a little bit through his life from the depths of despair up to the glorious heights of his Whisky Galore musical. And in the studio, we've got Ian Hammond-Brown. Welcome to the show, Chuck.
Thank you.
You all right?
Yeah.
So who are you? What are you? And who do you hope to be?
Well,
Okay. Now, listen, you've had a fantastic success with Whisky Galore, haven't you?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
But it's taken, as most creative
taken a
people,
long time, yeah.
it takes a long time to get there.
It does, yeah.
I'm still on my way, and I started 30 years ago. This is the pinnacle of my career. Right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, basically, I've been writing musicals probably for about 20 years now,
Yeah.
in various guises. I also used to play in various bands and things when I was younger, sort of rock bands and pop bands. So it really stemmed from there, from writing music with that. That's how I then got into musical theatre and
Yeah.
started.
So, what about music? Did you go to music school or anything? How did you
I'm mostly self-taught, but I did go for some piano lessons, and also I studied with the Open University and did a diploma in music with them as well. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so that was
Well,
helpful.
you say we all go through our, kind of our early years.
Yeah.
And so you actually started in a band. So what was that called?
Yeah, I started playing in various bands. The first band I was in was called Dance Addiction, and we had a single out probably about the late 80s, early 90s, and then
And what was the kind of music there?
it was sort of pop, dance sort of stuff. Yeah.
Duran
And then-
Durani or no?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Was you an old romantic or a new romantic?
a new romantic, I suppose.
So then, I suppose you tried different things, and you went
Yeah.
into another band. What was that called?
The band after that was called Fall From Grace, which we
Fall
had
From
slightly more
Grace.
success with,
Yeah.
and did a few videos and things with
Yeah,
them and stuff.
yeah.
And so
In
that
fact,
was-
so
that
we've got a
was
little surprise for you. We've actually found one of those
good.
videos. Sorry to spring this on you. Actually, if we can start rolling the tape, we can actually see what you looked. Now, how old was you in this video? Let's have a look at it.
in my 20s.
In your 20s, and then we've got an angel coming on the screen there. That's the kind of, and the song is actually called "Fall From Grace."
Fall
And
From
this-
Grace is the name of the band.
Oh, okay.
The song's called Seal Your Fate.
Let's listen to
Yeah.
it. So, which one's you?
It's the one in the front with more hair and a lot thinner at that time.
I think we better have a listen.
Meet me on Sunday by the bridge in the park at 12 o'clock. You leave by the subway, then head for the river. After dark, the boat will be waiting just off the coast, so don't be late. If not for the others, then do this only for your sake. Cause you can't seal your fate, cause you can't seal your fate in there.
Oh, very nice. You're not aging well, are you?
It was a long time ago.
No, it's just me being cheeky. I think you're aging very, very well. I
Oh,
believe
thank
you're
you.
on a diet.
Thanks very much.
It's not working though, is it, Chuck? I can say things
just
like
started
that.
it, I just started.
Just started it. Is that your excuse? Mine too. I started 20 years ago, and it's still going on. Anyway, so that was your early youth. And
That was
your,
my early youth,
Your
yeah.
your kind of your initiation into music.
Yeah, it
So why
was,
did
yeah.
you give it up? As if we all kind of know now.
I just, I don't know, I just moved into musical theatre. I got involved in amateur dramatics and really enjoyed musical theatre, and then I decided to start trying to write
So what kind of musical theatre have you written?
Various shows. I mean,
Before you had your success.
Before I had the success, well, my first show was called Cavallo, which was a musical thriller, which I had on the Fringe in 1994. I then did an adaptation of Dorian Gray, the Oscar Wilde novel Dorian Gray, and we had that on as well in Edinburgh. And then after that, when I met with Suzanne Loftus, who runs Cutting Edge Theatre Company, we developed a show called Blood Red, which is a play she'd been working on, and we turned that into a musical. It's a story about the Covenanters set in 17th century Scotland. After that, I then did a show called Fling, again with Suzanne, which was for a programme, part of the Cameron McIntosh search for a new musical, which was called Musical 10 on a Highland Quest, and we got through to the final 10 in that.
Like most creative people, you have to have a living as well.
Yeah.
You can't immediately start your career.
No,
and
unfortunately
the
not.
very lucky ones can.
Well, they can,
if they've got the support or the sponsorship or something like that. But most creative people, whether you're an artist or whatever, you have to have a job as well.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult. That's why it can take you a long time to get to where you are now.
It can,
With your one success.
Yeah.
Thanks. You're welcome, you're welcome. But just tell me about it as well. As a creative person, it's a very insular thing. You're on your own, you're working and what have you. As a bit of advice, I mean, somebody asked me and said, what advice? And I say, well, work with somebody who inspires you as well, who can look after the business side, the promotion side, the marketing side.
Definitely.
So, I mean, is that your experience?
Well, I mean, musicals are definitely a collaborative process, definitely. But I would say just don't give up, keep trying, and follow your dream basically, and you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and it's the people that you align yourself with as well.
Yeah, it is.
And they inspire you and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worked with some great people, particularly on Whisky, Galore musicals, so that's been an inspiration.
I mean, that's a great thing as well. I mean, I think in this case as well, part of the success is not only your fantastic music, which is really good, and we're going to show a little bit in a little while of another piece of music, which is beautiful, but your inspiration there comes from lots of different ways. But with Whisky Galore, it's already, people know the story, people have seen the film,
that does help,
the book.
yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah, and it's like, in my opinion, it's kind of... who's that one who does a bit of writing in London? Andrew Lloyd, somebody or other. He's had a little bit of success.
Just a wee bit.
A little bit of success, but you've got an example of Her Majesty's. In fact, I did Amadeus there in that theatre, and they came in straight after us. Yeah. And they've never left since. Right. What's that musical called? I can't even think of it now.
Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera, that's the one. That's the one I'm thinking about. I should have been looking at you and remembering. I had an aid memoir here. I didn't use it. I didn't pick up on it. Do you normally get insulted when you have these interviews? You do here, Chuck.
I do well.
You do. Like Phantom of the Opera, I mean, again, he based it like you did on Whisky Galore.
Yeah,
but there's a story there, there's a film, people know it. But then again, his second one is completely new story.
Love Never Dies,
Love Never Dies. Yeah. And that's not on anymore.
No, it's closed recently,
and I think a little bit is people have not got that familiarity, it's kind of, and all that kind of thing. So I think the subject matter of what you're working with, I think getting a little bit of help.
That definitely helps, yeah.
But I mean, that should still not stop anybody.
No, not at all. No. I mean, if you've got a good idea and something you believe in, then just go
like
for
the Rocky Horror Show and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's really
There's
good.
so many examples.
So after these 16 years of your creativity bursting at the seams and working and slogging, what kind of work did you do, by the way?
I work for an insolvency practitioner, which is not very exciting.
Can we kind of cancel this interview? It's certainly got very boring.
Have to earn a living somehow.
Exactly, and that's most creative people have to do that, and that's understandable, and that's no reflection on the talent or anything like that, because of all that. But finally, that your talent was recognised, and you've had a great success with Whisky Galore.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, obviously, we'd like to write music full time, so that's my aim.
Yeah, so that started in Edinburgh. It went to Picklockery Theatre, became one of the best-selling shows there. In fact, it was so best-selling they reprised it for their 60th birthday celebration. That's just finished. Now, you're telling me you're hoping to take that on tour as well?
Yeah, well, I hope we've had some interest from some producers, so we'd hope that it would possibly go on a tour, which would be good. So we'll just see what it goes.
So where do you see your moving on from this success? Where do you see yourself developing?
Well, I've got another few ideas for musicals. I'm working on that musical Fling that I'd worked on. I've just had time to come back to that now, so we're working on that next year. I've also got a few other ideas for things to
So
work on.
the good thing for you as well, if anybody's watching this or listening to this,
Yeah.
if there's anybody out there that have got some ideas, they've got a theatre, they're producers
Yeah,
or
definitely,
directors,
yeah. If
and they want to
anybody's-
work with you, you're open to that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're open to that.
There's
No.
certainly work there that they can do.
Now, you've got a 20-year
Uh-huh.
of musical things that you've done,
Yeah,
songs and that. Is there one particular favourite?
Yeah, one of my songs is from a musical called Blood Red that I wrote with Suzanne Loftus. It's a song called The Dream That Might Come True,
Okay.
which is probably one of my favourite ones
Yeah.
from that. Yeah.
In fact, what we've done, we've put a little video together for that.
Okay.
A little video just to let everybody know the kind of music that you write.
Right, okay.
Now, I'm sure you'll be coming in again because you've got a really interesting life and there's lots of things, exciting
thanks, yeah.
things that you've been doing, and we've got a few little projects we might be
Yeah,
working on
yeah.
as well. So we'll
Yeah.
chat about that. Can you
Be
just
good.
explain about this song?
Yeah,
what
this-
it means to you, and who's singing it, etc.
Sure. This is The Dream That Might Come True from Blood Red, sung by Ashley Gray, and it's basically it's about a young girl, Meg, who's dreaming of her future with her future love. So that's what the
You're a
song
big
is.
softie, really, aren't you?
I'm at heart. Yeah.
Anyway, let's have a listen to this. This is, what's it called again?
The Dream That Might Come True.
The Dream That Might Come True.
At the breaking of the dawn, there is something in the air that can tell you how a day is going to be. Maybe good or bad, maybe right or wrong, maybe a dream that I have longed to see. So today at dawn, when I saw the sun, I knew just what I had to do. There's a change you feel at a moment in life, like a thought that's taking shape, breaking through. And all you can see at a moment in life is the promise of a future with a dream that might come true. Sometimes there's darkness in my dream, I feel I'm drowning and crying out for love. And sometimes a light within my dream is like an angel, he's watching me above. I don't want to be a girl whose life has passed her by. There's a voice inside I can't conceal. It's shouting out so many dreams, not just of love, but more I feel. So now I see I'll find my way, a way to come to make my mark. There's a change I feel at this moment in life. It's a feeling that is wonderful and new. And all I can see at this moment in life is the path to change my future and the dream that might come true. The dream that might come true.
We're very passionate in the UK and in Scotland with regards our heritage, our culture and our buildings and monuments. I'm delighted today that we're joined by Anne Lindsay. Anne is from Perthshire and has recently written the book Lost Perthshire, which refers to a number of the Perthshire buildings and houses which have been lost over the years. And Anne's here today to share a couple of her favourite buildings from the Lost Perthshire book. Anne, welcome to Perthshire Online TV.
Thank you.
So, Anne Lindsay from Aberdeen, now living in Dunkeld, journalist, author. Can you give us a little bit of a background as to how you got to Lost Perthshire at this point in time, your career and your background?
Well, I advanced from being in Paris and studying at a couturier school, dressmaking, things like that.
Wow.
To London, to working for a couturier called Hardy Amy's.
Oh, very well known.
And then to feature writing and journalism. And then I started writing books about 20 years ago. And I've always been really interested in beautiful old buildings. I'm always stopping everywhere, looking at them, photographing them. So clearly when I wrote Lost Perthshire, it was wonderful to discover that so many mansion houses and so many very beautiful buildings existed. And it's also quite sad to discover how many have gone. 29 have vanished in the past less than a century. Enormous houses, and some of them very, very beautiful. But some of them, perhaps, monsters in
Not
our
quite
eyes.
so beautiful.
Not quite so beautiful.
So, Anne, today, would you like to share from the book just a couple of the buildings that are your favourites that have been lost over the years, and give us a little bit of a background to them?
I think Seggy Den.
Never heard of Seggy Den.
Never heard of Seggy Den. Seggy Den is just across the River Tay from Elcho Castle. Right. So when you're going on the Perth to Dundee road, there are indications opposite Kinross. If you look to the right there, that's where Seggy Den was. Very pretty Georgian house with a very, very happy family who lived there. 2 daughters who were great painters and botanists. Their lives almost mirrored the time of Beatrix Potter. They were also very interested in all the same things that she was interested in, but they had much happier lives. Very, very talented people. The house was clearly a pretty Georgian one, and it had dry rot. It had lots of reincarnations after the First World War and then after the Second World War. I mean, you know, it's always difficult to keep these enormous houses going when there obviously wasn't enough money or expertise round about to keep them going. But it was decided to demolish it. And it was meant to be demolished carefully and in over 2 or 3 days, but in fact it caught fire, and fire raged for about 3 days. Absolutely nothing is left. It also had a very beautiful garden, been created over possibly a century, completely vanished. So that one, I think, is very sad. The other one, which is intriguing, is the House of Nairn, which is just over by Bankfoot, just off the A9, as you're going north on the A9, before you get to Bankfoot, over to the left. Still some sort of indication, a clue when there has been a beautiful old house there. Usually wonderful big old trees there that are probably a century old, carefully planted, still there. So you often get a clue that there was something there. House of Nairn, a very, very, very pretty, again, very simple Scottish house, which again has completely gone. So I'm sad about those 2. Others, Duncrub, not a very pretty name. Certainly, I didn't think a very pretty house. Completely gone.
Yeah.
Murphley Castle, still the castle remains. The huge addition, which was actually never lived in, is gone. But some of the stone was used over in Aberfeldy and Pitlochry, were part of that house, you know, that was taken there. Other houses, Abercairny and Millern, which were over in Strathern, very pretty houses, but maybe not to our taste. Very complex houses, really because their owners thought that they could be architects. They should have been theatrical designers, really, and they tried so many different types of chimneys. I mean, the planners would have
a field day.
Absolutely, more than a field day. Several heart attacks, I should think. I mean, they would never, obviously, have seen the light of day if they'd had to go through all the processes we go through now.
So as we move forward in Perth at this point in time, there's quite a lot of controversy around one of our town centre buildings, the City Hall, and whether what's going to happen to it, and what should happen to it, and the feelings and emotion that the City Hall brings to many people. Do you have a view about the City Hall from a personal perspective?
I think sometimes it's difficult to actually say goodbye to buildings that are very familiar. Do you regret them because you don't want to see change? And I think that could be the case with the City Hall. It's probably a little bit big, in slightly the wrong place, and concealing the long view of a very beautiful, very important old church. That doesn't mean I think it's easy to say, let's knock it down. I don't think it's easy. But you have to, I think, sometimes you can't even compromise. You know, sometimes I think you just have to be ruthless. Yeah. I remember my mother actually telling me many years ago that in gardens, you know, if you have huge trees or something like that, you have to be very, very ruthless and take everything down and start again. Of course, I never followed her advice. She was my mother. You know, she was correct. That's what you must do. And maybe this is a good case in point.
Very true.
But it's sad for lots of people.
It is. And thank you very much once again for your time. And we hope to see you on the show again sometime soon.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Now, I've got the 5th book here from the Perthshire authoress, Jess Smith, and it's called Sucking Berries. Jess, welcome to the show. Now, first of all, why is it called Sucking Berries?
Well, it's a compilation of stories, and I needed a title. Yeah. So I phoned one of my older sisters, and I said to her, you know, quickly on the phone, listen, I need a title. She's very good with titles. And I said, I need a title for this compilation of stories. Can you suggest something? And she sort of mumbled, and I said, what are you saying? Phone me back. So I phoned her back in a wee while, and I said, what were you mumbling about? She said, my neighbour had handed me over a wee bowl of raspberries, and I was sucking the berries, and my false teeth were full of seeds. So I said, well, I don't have to ask you for a title because you've just given me one.
What a fantastic way of saying it. That's a great way of finding a title for a book. So what's the contents of the book?
Well, these are stories, very, very precious stories to me as a child. And I felt these stories would die with me because I was the only one that was who remembered them. There are one or two are quite, you know, you can actually find them in old books like Wilson's Tales of the Borders and The Maid of Leadnick. I've put that in there about Comrie. But there are a lot of stories, and I felt that they were not being told enough in schools, because when you tell the history of the clearances, you would use some of the myths and legends as well. We don't get that in schools anymore. And I felt, and the border, levellers and the border, of course, with their myths and legends of pirates and things like that. And I thought, this is all dying. So I put them together in Sucking Berries, and I just hope that if you're 10 or 100, you know, you'll enjoy them.
You'll enjoy them. So basically, they're all the stories that you used to hear as a child, which was only passed down orally. And now you've put them in the book, so they're not lost at all.
That's the reason, yeah.
And there's all sorts of different stories in here as well. Which, have you got a particular favourite?
Well, there are. The coin is one of my favourites.
The coin?
The coin,
Just give us a quick, brief overview of what the coin's about.
Well, I was 12. We were in the Ganavan Sands in Oban, my mother and I was sitting on a wee rock, and I was looking across at the ferry going over to Mull, and I could see the Ducat Castle in the distance, and she was telling me the story of it, and then she says, I'm going to tell you a story, Jess, she said, and I want you to remember it forever, and don't ever forget it, because she says, it's a story you will not read in any books, but it's a story you will hear of, and it's about Flora MacDonald and Bonnie Prince Charlie, and how she had him dressed as a lassie. And Maggie Burke, I believe they called her, an Irish Gaelic-speaking maidservant of Flora, fictitious, and sneaked him away over to Portree to get him away in the boat. But there is very little told about the woman who made that dress.
Oh, that's the story. So if you've got to find out, you've got to buy the book. Now, this is the book, Sucking Berries, by Jess Smith, and you can obviously get that through the website here. And it's a jolly good read as well. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Love, suggests the song, is a many-splendored thing, and so it is, shimmering like a crystal, throwing out its beams of light, bright and sparkling, throwing out the smallest ray of light and turning it into a rich spectrum of colour. Yep, love changes everything. I wonder if anyone has ever counted up the number of songs and stories and sonnets which have ever been composed on the theme of love. I am sure there is as much written about what love is not as much as there is about what love is. The picture painted by the song is part of what love is, a splendid thing. For a fuller picture, we need to turn over the page and continue the story to see what's on the other side. The other side, at first glance, seems sombre. In the shadow, lines are softer, less bright, sometimes hard to see. Instead of the bright glow of colour, the darkness seems only to throw back a reflection of suffering. The arms held out open and welcome become pale arms drawn tense, on a cross perhaps. Rich reds dull into the spilt blood. The song of joy becomes a groan of pain. What kind of love is this? Yet it is still love, more splendid than the brilliance that dazzles me, harder to recognise because it's not the way you would prefer to paint the picture of what love is, self-giving, suffering, even dying. If I'm going to share the splendour of love, then will I not also share the pain of loving? Better to have loved and lost, a man once said, than never to have loved at all. Pain is part of it. We may not always recognise it for what it is. It's part of the privilege of being human, to get to share in this many splendid thing. The dark lines in a painting only intensify the brightness of the colours. Both the joy and the pain of loving are part of the same reality. When we are able to recognise this, we begin to understand. When pain and disappointment hit me, I may still rebel and protest, but slowly, with patience, God, who is love incarnate, leads me to see love stands there even in the shadows, just as he does in the light, not creating the pain, but helping me to work through it for our good. Perhaps we may see the different guises of love. Love comes in a way that we never thought possible. Love speaks to us in the still small voice, but it also speaks to us in the frightening storms and in an infinity of guises. The adventure is to recognise him.
Well, I thought that was a very exciting show once again, Vivienne. What did you think?
I thought it was very good.
Right. Now, make sure that you do contact us, and this coming week we've got a competition. So if you want to take part in that competition, you'll find details on our website. So just look at the details that are coming up on the screen now to do that, and we'd love to hear from you because you can win a pair of tickets. Not quite sure where a pair of tickets are to, but a pair of tickets to go somewhere. Find out by visiting our website.